The human world smelled like oil and metal, a scent that clung to the air with a persistence that rivaled even the most determined Coronex warrior. Alea wrinkled her nose as she stepped out of her landing pod, the hatch sighing open like a tired old man with a chest cold. She'd arrived on Earth, a planet her people considered the galaxy's equivalent of a backwater dive bar, specifically to prove a point, that humans were all talk and no teeth, or, rather, all teeth and no brains. Her hair shimmered in the low light of the mechanic's workshop, rippling from azure to violet and back again, a chromatic echo of her mood swings. She'd chosen this particular human, a quiet, lanky mechanic named Tom, because he seemed the least likely to put up any resistance. His workshop was a cluttered maze of tools, half-finished projects, and the occasional half-eaten sandwich that looked like it might be plotting its own galactic conquest. Perfect. She slinked into the workshop, her boots barely making a sound on the metal floor. Tom had his back to her, hunched over some contraption that glowed in ways that suggested at least a passing familiarity with quantum physics, and possibly some illicit knowledge of transdimensional energy. She made a mental note to confiscate it later. For now, though, she had a mission: to tease him, push him, see how quickly he'd crack. She'd made a bet with her older brother that she could make a human cry in under an hour. Her brother had laughed, saying even the lowest-level technician on Coronex could do that in half the time. She'd accepted the challenge anyway. Alea never backed down from a bet. "Hey, spaceman," she called out, her voice dripping with playful malice. "Lose something? Or are you just trying to rebuild the entire universe with a wrench and a roll of duct tape?" Tom didn't jump, didn't even flinch. He turned his head slowly, one eyebrow raised as if she'd asked him whether or not he'd like fries with that order of cosmic destiny. "Hey," he said, voice calm and low, like he'd just noticed a smudge on his sleeve. "Need something?" Alea bristled. Most beings would at least give her the satisfaction of a startled yelp or a dropped tool. But this one? She'd expected confusion, maybe fear, definitely some healthy respect for an alien who could manipulate energy fields with a flick of her fingers. Instead, he offered her the same look he probably gave the rusty old coffee machine in the corner. This would take more effort than she'd thought. She smirked and sauntered closer, her boots clicking a rhythm of confidence. "I'm here on, let's call it a diplomatic mission." She stretched her arms above her head, shifting her form slightly so her skin shimmered like stardust. "Just checking up on your progress, you know. Making sure you're not going to blow up the solar system with that thing." She gestured vaguely at his device. Tom grunted. "Appreciate the concern. Wouldn't want to ruin my weekend plans." Her grin widened. "Weekend plans? I'm surprised you even have those on this rock." She leaned in, close enough to see the fine lines around his eyes. "What could possibly be so important that it'd stop you from annihilating the entire sector? Fishing trip? Date with destiny? Or are you just planning on polishing your spanner collection?" His lips quirked at the edges. "Polishing my spanner collection sounds about right." He tapped a button on his device, sending a small spark into the air. "But hey, you never know when a girl like you might come by and offer to blow up my workshop. Gotta be prepared." Alea's laugh rang out, a tinkling sound like wind chimes in a plasma storm. She liked this one. He wasn't easy prey. She'd have to work for this win, and that was the best kind of game. Alea leaned against a stack of half-assembled engine parts, her arms folded, watching Tom with a mixture of irritation and admiration that she'd never admit to having. Every so often, his device would spark or hum, and he'd mutter something in that dry, amused tone that humans used when they thought the universe might actually be listening. She'd tried the easy tricks already, mimicking his boss with an annoyingly authentic accent, appearing as his best friend demanding beer money, and, for extra spice, a rather sultry version of his ex-girlfriend who'd left him for a crypto enthusiast with a questionable mustache. Each time, Tom had responded with the same infuriating calmness: a raised eyebrow, a bemused smile, and the occasional sarcastic, "nice try." She'd expected him to at least break a sweat. Instead, he treated her illusions like a kid treated soap bubbles. Amusing, maybe even pretty, but definitely not worth getting worked up about. Now she was determined to outdo herself. She downloaded an entire terabyte of Earth sitcoms, gleaned from a questionable satellite feed that had gotten her at least one warning from the Galactic Copyright Enforcement Bureau, and practiced their comedic timing with the precision of a war drone. She'd even managed to nail the laugh track effect, which she deployed now with questionable taste as she flickered between forms like a one-woman sketch show. "Hey, buddy," she chirped in the tone of an over-caffeinated talk show host, her hair cycling through neon pink and lime green as she shifted into a caricature of a TV chef. "You want fries with that quantum field destabilizer? Or should I throw in a free black hole for the kids' meal?" Tom glanced up from his device, his expression torn between amusement and pity. "If you throw in the black hole, can I at least get a side of antimatter nuggets? I hear they're killer at parties." She cackled, flicking a switch in her wrist communicator to add a holographic audience that cheered and clapped on cue. "Oh, big spender, huh? Well, for an extra charge, I can throw in an entire fleet of Coronex battlecruisers. Slightly used, minor scratches on the hull. Best deal this side of Alpha Centauri." He leaned back on his stool, one leg crossed over the other, arms folded, grinning like he'd stumbled onto the galaxy's strangest improv show. "Tempting, but I'm on a budget. Just spent the last of my credits on a fancy new flux capacitor. Next generation, fully collapsible, all the bells and whistles. You know how it is." Alea rolled her eyes so hard her retinas nearly hit the back of her skull. "Flux capacitors are so last millennium. Haven't you heard of subspace entanglers? Come on, Tom, get with the times." She threw in an exaggerated sigh for dramatic effect. "You humans really are the slowpokes of the universe. I've seen protozoan colonies evolve faster than your entire tech tree. Guess I'll just have to rely on my good looks and charm then." He winked and she felt an unexpected heat rise to her cheeks, a betrayal from her own body's biochemical systems, obviously a glitch. "Don't flatter yourself," she snapped, but her grin gave her away. "I've met plasma worms with more charm, and trust me, they don't even have faces." Tom pretended to shudder. "That's a mental image I could have lived without, thanks." He reached for a spanner, adjusting something on his device with the practiced ease of someone who'd been tinkering since he was old enough to pronounce multi-phase induction coil. She watched him work, the steady rhythm of his hands and the quiet hum of his concentration oddly soothing. She found herself enjoying the banter, despite herself, despite the mission. Maybe humans were worth more than she'd given them credit for. Maybe this one, in particular, was more than just a target. Alea was ready for the grand finale. The pièce de résistance, as those old Earth movies like to call it. She'd spent the last 3 hours, setting up the most elaborate holographic prank her Coronex training could conjure. Even by the standards of intergalactic mischief, this one was a masterpiece. A simulated invasion fleet, each ship bristling with plasma cannons and energy tethers, a colossal flagship poised like a cosmic vulture above the mechanics' workshop. She'd added a voice modulation algorithm to project a booming alien overlord voice with the dramatic flair of a soap opera star on a sugar high. Tom was going to lose it, she was sure of it. Any human would, especially one whose only defense was a half-rusted spanner and a stubborn streak. She activated the program with a flourish, and the air around the shop shimmered. Holographic fires erupted, battle cries rang out, and a fake asteroid streaked overhead, leaving a trail of sparkles like a cosmic sparkler. She gave herself a mental high five. Nothing could top this. She peeked around the corner of the workbench just in time to see Tom glance up, eyebrows raised in mild curiosity. He didn't even drop his spanner. Instead, he calmly set it down and wiped his hands on a rag that looked like it had seen better centuries. "Huh," he said, tilting his head. "Bit early for Armageddon, isn't it?" Alea almost choked. "Excuse me, that's not Armageddon. That's an invasion fleet from the Andromeda Syndicate. They're here to enslave your planet and turn your oceans into high-yield fuel for their warp drives." She let her voice boom like an ancient god, her holographic general bristling with extra plasma cannons just for effect. Tom nodded solemnly. "Right. And do they take debit cards, or is it cash on delivery?" She sputtered. "Debit cards? This is a cosmic invasion, not a pizza delivery." She doubled down, adding a squadron of holographic mechs to the scene, each one glowing menacingly. Behold their unstoppable might. Tom picked up his flux calibrator and began to tinker with it, giving her an absent-minded nod. Looks impressive. Do they do birthday parties? My cousin's kid is turning 10 next week, and I think he'd love a show like this. Alea's jaw dropped. Birthday parties? You. This is not a birthday party. This is the total annihilation of your species. She flailed her arms, adding extra explosions and a thunderous bass line that rattled the tools on the workbench. Tom gave her a slow grin. Well, you might want to tone down the bass. My coffee mug's doing the cha-cha. Also, I think the guy on the left just tripped over his own plasma cannon. He pointed at a holographic soldier who was indeed on his back, legs kicking feebly. Alea's face twitched. She snapped her fingers, deleting the hapless holographic trooper in a flicker of pixels. Fine, but you're missing the point. You're supposed to be terrified, overwhelmed, begging for mercy. Something. Anything. She clenched her fists, adding an entire starship collision in the background, explosions and screaming pilots included. Tom sighed, picking up a small device from the bench that looked suspiciously like a human-built phase inverter. He twisted a dial, and the holographic projection shuddered, then flickered. The fake invasion force hiccuped, then disappeared with a pop, leaving only the faint smell of burnt ozone. He held the device aloft like a magician, revealing his final trick. Neat little thing I whipped up last month. Disrupts low-grade energy fields, like illusions from certain aliens who shall remain nameless. He winked. Alea gaped. How did you? Tom shrugged. Trade secret. He reached for his mug, took a sip, and gave her that infuriatingly calm smile. You're gonna have to try harder than that, Sparkles. Alea groaned, but a reluctant grin spread across her face. She liked him. He was unpredictable. Annoyingly so. Alea leaned against the console, arms crossed, glaring at Tom like he'd just shorted out her best prank circuit. She'd tried everything. Illusions, holographic armadas, mind-bending quantum jokes, and he'd deflected each one like it was a ping-pong ball. She wasn't sure whether to be impressed or thoroughly exasperated. Tom, meanwhile, was humming some Earth tune, something suspiciously cheerful about sunshine and rainbows, as he adjusted a coil on his latest gadget. Sparks flew, but he didn't even flinch. His calm was starting to get under her skin. She'd come here to rattle him, and now she was the one who felt like a glitchy data packet. You know, she drawled, voice heavy with faux menace. Most beings would be trembling in their boots right now. I just threatened to turn your planet into a cosmic drive-through. And what do? You hum. She snatched a tool from his bench and waved it around like a ceremonial dagger. Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? He didn't look up. A girl with questionable hair colors and an impressive talent for illusions? His lips quirked. Guilty as charged. Alea narrowed her eyes. You think this is funny, don't you? Tom finally looked at her, eyes twinkling. A little. You've got to admit, the cosmic drive-through thing was pretty good. I half expected you to ask if I wanted fries with that. Alea's cheeks flamed pink, an embarrassing side effect of her Coronex physiology. She tried to cover it by rolling her eyes. Humans. Always turning the apocalypse into a punchline. Hey, Tom said, gesturing broadly with a smudge-covered hand. If the universe is going to throw giant plasma storms at me, I might as well laugh about it. Beats crying into my coffee. He gestured at the mug next to his elbow, which had seen so much action it might qualify for a veteran's pension. She couldn't help it, she snorted. A laugh, a real one, slipped out before she could clamp her teeth around it. You're ridiculous, she muttered, but her grin refused to die. He grinned right back. That's the spirit. Besides, I figured out a long time ago that strength doesn't always come from blowing stuff up. He tapped the side of his device, a neat little box that hummed with a gentle glow. Sometimes it's about knowing when to keep your cool and let the other person tire themselves out. Her smile faltered, just for a second. She felt something shift, a weird little tug in her chest that she'd never felt before. It was like a virus in her emotional subroutines. She tried to hide it by flipping her hair, which conveniently changed color to match her confusion. You're different, she said, voice too soft for her liking. Most humans would have run screaming by now. Tom's eyes softened, though his grin never wavered. Yeah, well, I've seen some pretty strange things in my time. Alien girls with shifting hair colors don't even make the top 5 anymore. She burst out laughing, the sound ringing through the workshop like a spark igniting a fusion core. Okay, I'll bite. What's in your top 5? He held up a finger, counting off each one with exaggerated seriousness. 1. The time I accidentally opened a micro wormhole in my bathroom sink. 2. My neighbor's cat that figured out how to use the replicator to order fish at 2 in the morning. 3. My ex-girlfriend's cooking. Don't ask. 4. The giant space squid that tried to negotiate rent with me last year. And 5. He paused, pointing at her. You! Alea's laughter turned into a wheeze, tears gathering in the corners of her eyes. She doubled over, nearly dropping the stolen tool. You humans, she gasped, are completely insane. Tom's grin stretched wider. Takes one to know one. Sparkles. She wiped her eyes, still giggling. Maybe this planet wasn't so boring after all. Maybe she'd stick around a little longer, just to see what else this quiet human had hidden up his sleeve. Alea hovered in the middle of the workshop, her boots nearly touching the ground, hair flickering between aquamarine and ultraviolet as she chewed on the new emotion pulsing in her chest. She'd come to Earth expecting an easy conquest, a quick lesson in human inferiority. But instead she'd found, well, Tom. A human who laughed in the face of illusions, who tinkered with gadgets that shouldn't even exist on a backwater rock like this one, and who smiled at her as though she wasn't a threat but a curious puzzle. Tom leaned against his battered workbench, arms folded, watching her with that infuriatingly calm grin, the same grin that had turned her most elaborate prank into a cosmic stand-up routine. She'd thrown starships, plasma cannons, and even a dancing octopus hologram at him, and he'd responded with jokes about birthday parties and debit cards. She'd never met anyone who made the universe's scariest threats sound like a bad sitcom. You look like you're about to short circuit, he said, his voice low and amused. He raised his mug, the one with the chipped handle and suspicious stain on the side, as if toasting her confusion. So, what's the plan now, Sparkles? Gonna turn me into a toad? Make my head explode? Bake me a cosmic pie? She let out a sigh that felt like it had been building up since the dawn of her mission. I was supposed to scare you, she muttered, her voice dropping to a tone she wasn't used to. Show you how strong I am. Prove that humans are weak. She twirled a loose strand of her shimmering hair, watching the colors shift. But every time I tried, you just smiled, or cracked a joke, or made me laugh. I don't know whether to zap you or invite you to karaoke night. Tom chuckled, the sound warm enough to make her glitch. I'll take karaoke. I do a killer rendition of Rocket Man. Get it? He winked, and she groaned, but a smile tugged at her lips anyway. She hovered a little lower, landing on the floor with a soft thud. You know, back on Coronex, strength was everything. Power, intimidation, winning every argument, even if it meant breaking a few quantum laws. But you, she shook her head, feeling something inside her shift like a faulty gravity stabilizer. You taught me that strength can be quiet and funny, and she hesitated, searching for the right human word. Kind. Tom set his mug down, wiping his hands on a rag that probably qualified as a biohazard by now. Yeah, well, someone's got to show you aliens the ropes. Plus, your illusions are top-notch. Gotta respect the craft. She laughed, really laughed, and the sound felt like a supernova in her chest. She'd lost the bet with her brother, sure, but she'd gained something she couldn't quantify. A respect for humans that no textbook or combat simulator could teach her. She reached for her communicator, fingers hesitating over the recall button that would summon her ship. I guess I should report back, she said, eyes locking onto Tom's. Tell them that humans are stronger than we thought, that they can't be underestimated. Tom grinned. Make sure you mention the karaoke. It's a crucial part of the defense system. She rolled her eyes, but her smile was unstoppable. You're impossible, she said, voice soft. Hey, he replied, lifting his mug one last time. Takes one to know one. Sparkles. She saluted him with a flick of her wrist, the gesture half Coronex battle greeting, half human high five. Then, with a final grin, she activated the recall. Light enveloped her, a swirl of colors that danced like laughter in the night. As she vanished, she felt something warm and bright settle in her chest. She'd come to conquer Earth. Instead, she'd learned that strength wasn't about dominating. Sometimes it was about listening, laughing, and finding common ground in the strangest of places. Back on Coronex, her brother would never believe it, but for the first time she didn't care, because somewhere in a small Earth workshop, a quiet human had taught her the strongest lesson of all. Humans could never be underestimated, and that was the best surprise in the galaxy.